Winnemucca Dry Lake is located 50 miles northeast of Reno, Nevada. In the cliffs along its shore are several small caves. Ancient people visited the caves thousands of years ago, leaving many artifacts. There's nothing here now except this ladder of recent origin. Sitting here, it's easy to dream of times long past, when the lake was full and its basin home to countless fish, birds, and animals. Let's visit a man who can tell us more.
I want to welcome you to the Nevada State Museum, and these are some of the collections that we have that we curate for the Bureau of Land Management. The Nevada State Museum, beginning in the early 1950s, excavated archaeological sites at Winnemucca Lake. We recovered some prehistoric human Native American artifacts, as well as Ice Age fossils. And what we have here is a horse mandible that initially it was thought that this proved the contemporaneity of humans and Ice Age animals, but looking at the data was unconvincing. So we had to wait until the 2010s when Evan Pellegrini, one of our research associates, came across a cache of extinct, historically extinct, Rocky Mountain grasshoppers in our collections. And he was intrigued by this find. The BLM agreed to radiocarbon date these grasshoppers, and turned out to be 14,300 years in age. Pretty much the same age as the Ice Age horse from the same archaeological complex. And these grasshoppers from our collection were almost certainly gathered in large quantity from the shores of Winnemucca Lake. These are plague grasshoppers that probably originated to the east of us, Utah, or points farther to the east, and made their way into the western Great Basin. This was a plague grasshopper to Euro-Americans in the 19th century, but 14,000 years ago, this was dinner time in a big way. And they gathered large quantities. What we have left are the remnants of one of these cache pits containing a large quantity of these Rocky Mountain grasshoppers. In the late 1950s, early 1960s, Richard Shuttler from the Nevada State Museum excavated a complex of archaeological sites on the northwestern end of Winnemucca Lake, and these are some of the artifacts from that site. We have basketry, which is kind of a marker for the prehistoric people in the region in these dry caves, and this is a hat, possibly doubled as a bowl, that's some 4,400 years in age, and as you can see, decorated, both a decorative rim as well as decoration on the side of the basket. We also have a projectile point that we find commonly on the surface, but in this case, at the base of the point, we have some sinew that was used to lash the projectile point to the addle dart foreshaft. These were projectiles thrown with a throwing stick or addle. Some, again, in this instance, 4,000 years ago. We were able to date the sinew on this particular projectile point. Among the artifacts that we have from Winnemucca Lake are artifacts that were imported into the area from outside the area, and in this case we have an abalone shell ornament that originated in Southern California. This is green abalone, or Haliotis fulgens, and it made a long trek to get up here. We don't know, however, what we had from the Winnemucca Lake Basin that was traded down south. We have artifacts that date to about 2,000 years ago. With the Native Americans from 12,000 years ago on up to the historic time period, basketry was a very important aspect of their life, and it included their clothing. And in this case, we have a basketry cap or hat, and it's very finely woven, and it was probably decorated, almost undoubtedly decorated. It's got a fancy stitch on it, and it was beloved and used for many years, possibly decades. And in its final use, it was a personal mush bowl or possibly a cooking bowl. Artifacts that look like oversized toothpicks are fish gouges used in procuring or fishing for Lahontan cutthroat trout. And you can see from the size of the hooks, or these gouges, that they're after the big ones. And these trout can get up to 42 or so pounds, record size. And the way that they're used is you would skewer the bait with the gouge and set out a trot line, and the fish would gulp the bait, the bone would catch in the throat of the trout, and you would get dinner. These final artifacts represent Euro-American use of Winnemucca Lake, and in this instance, it's commercial fishermen. The large copper attractor that you see here was used not only as a tractor, but it also weighted the line to go deep and catch the big ones. And the fish hooks that you see are known as salmon size, 4/0 and 5/0 size fish hooks.